Welcome back to Afternoon Live. Okay, you know those delicious, perfect-looking cookies, the ones that cost $4 and $5 a piece? Our next guest says you can make them right at home. So here to share the secrets to baking the best cookies ever, we welcome professional cookie baker Tammy Brennan. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
We've all been drooling over the finished product display that we'll dive into later, but look at those cookies. They look so delicious. You're going to teach us how to do it ourselves.
Well, I'll give you some tips so you can take your cookies and make them a lot more professional and gourmet.
Yes, because it starts with ingredients. First things first.
Absolutely.
You want to have the quality.
Quality ingredients, and prices are really expensive at the grocery store, so it's really important to know where to spend your money.
Okay.
And there's a few ingredients that make a big difference in the quality of your baked
Okay,
goods.
where should we be making sure?
Okay, well, some of the ingredients that are really important is your butter.
Yes.
Good quality butter has less water, more fat, and what it'll do, it'll make your cookies thicker and chewier.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's really important as well. Flour, good quality flour is important as well. And chocolate. Cocoa powders, you want to use a high fat cocoa powder.
Okay.
I like to blend my cocoa powders, so I like to use a little bit of natural mixed with some Dutch process.
Oh, that's cool.
To put them together so it enhances the flavor, so you get more flavor profile.
I see.
Yeah.
Chocolate can be even more exciting.
It can be, it can be. And you want to choose a good chocolate chip. You can use chunks or chocolate, but you really want to make sure that you buy the higher brands because it really makes a difference in gourmet cookies.
Okay, okay. What about, go ahead.
Go ahead. And also flavorings are really important.
Yes.
I like to use real flavorings. I have, lemon oils. I like to use, natural maple, real vanilla. It's really important. Otherwise, you can get a really artificial taste in your cookie.
Tell,
you know, that fake banana, fake lemon taste.
Yep.
And it's just not that tasty. And also, I really encourage people to use sea salt. Instead of table salt. You can use kosher salt, but sea salt is my favorite because table salt has a really chemically aftertaste to it.
It does, yeah.
So
there's nothing better than that little sprinkle of salt on really dark chocolate. It's just the best. Okay, let's talk about creaming butter, successfully creaming butter.
Right.
Which begins, is it room temperature?
Yes, and a lot of people get really confused. They get confused between room temperature and softened butter.
Okay.
And so when people put their butter on the counter and they'll leave it for an hour or two, well, what's happened is it's room temperature butter for baking is actually 67 degrees. That's perfect. So if your house is 71 degrees, 72 degrees, or it's summer, it's even warmer than that, it's actually going to be softened butter. Okay. So you can tell the difference if you put your finger in and it's hard and it barely makes a dent, it is room temperatures, 67. If it's softened, and you can, this is soften, and you can see that you can really kind of push it around. This is for frostings.
Oh, okay.
So that's what you want to use for frostings. But you want to make sure that the air gets beaten into your butter. So you want to beat it on medium-high at about 3 minutes for about 67 degrees. If you're not too sure, just use a thermometer and stick it in the butter. And
why not?
And it's perfect. So what happens is if you don't make sure that your butter temperature is correct, what happens is it'll lose volume. And so when you're baking, have you ever had like a cake or something that kind of sinks in the middle?
And you're going, what went wrong? I followed the recipe exactly.
Right, it's because your butter wasn't the correct
temperature.
Oh,
you've solved so many mysteries.
Yes, so you want the volume to stay in. And proper butter temperature.
We're having a science lesson all at the same time. Okay, let's talk about mixing the dry ingredients first. You always see that in recipes, but it's really important.
It's very important, and how you measure flour will actually make or break your cookies.
Okay.
So it's really important for consistency. A lot of people scoop. And that's a big no-no because it can be like more than a few tablespoons difference between scooping and measuring properly.
Oh no.
Now, so if you don't have a scale, what I tell people to do is sort of fluff their flour.
Okay. Fluff the flour.
Fluff the flour instead of sifting. You don't need to sift for cookies. And then what you can do is you can take it and then spoon it in like this. And that'll give you a more accurate. And when you get to the top, you just flatten it out and measure. But my favorite way to do measure ingredients is with a scale. So you put your bowl on first, you turn it on, it zeroes out. Okay. And then you put it in here and then you get to the right amount. And it just makes it much more consistent.
Precision.
Yeah, and then you can repeat because sometimes if you make a cookie one time and then you try it again, or a baked good, it doesn't come out as well every single time, and that's often in measuring your flour incorrectly.
Okay, I've been scooping flour all these years. Good thing you're here. Okay.
And also another tip too is what I like to do for softer cookies is add a half a teaspoon of cornstarch per cup of flour.
Okay.
And what it does is it softens the cookies to make them gooier. And it was a huge viral tip on Instagram.
That's a really good one.
Yes. And then when you put like, your baking sodas and your baking powders, whatever you want to use in your cookies, you make sure your salt, you stir it around, so you actually have to blend your cookies less and mix them less when you add your dry ingredients, so you don't toughen up and create too many glutens.
Right, you don't want to overwork the dough. And then make sure you do scrape everything.
And
I'm making a mess. Scrape everything off the side of the bowl.
Right.
So
and,
you get an
underneath,
even mix.
and then you can almost like put it on a table and just really make sure it's kneaded properly, because if you've ever baked a batch of cookies and you have like maybe just one cookie sort of like get a lacy edge on it, it's because your ingredients haven't been properly mixed.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, how about chilling the dough and doing that successfully?
What I like to do is after I finish putting all my ingredients together, I shape my dough and then I chill it in the refrigerator. So what I do is, you can shape it afterwards, but I like to do it beforehand because I like to bake when my dough is cold.
Okay.
And so what I do is I put my dough on here and then I put it in a cover on it.
That's cool.
So not too much air goes around it.
I see.
And so what that will do is I chill for at least 24 hours. It's best 72 hours. It'll set up the butter.
Oh, really?
And it'll set up the butter, and it'll allow all the flour to absorb the moisture.
But that's so long to wait for a cookie.
I know, but they'll be they'll really will taste better.
Oh my gosh,
You'll
3
get
whole days?
Yeah, you'll get
Somebody's getting in the fridge.
I know. You'll get a thicker cookie, but at least 24 hours. You get a thicker, chewier cookie if you actually can be patient. It's kind of like a stew. I like to tell people, you know, yes, you can make a great cookie the first day, but the next day that stew is better, and that's the same with the cookie. The flavor will develop, and the moisture will absorb a little bit.
That's a great tip. And then picture perfect cookies. You can actually place the decor.
Yeah, so if you want that Instagram look to it, what you can do is before you put it in the oven, after you've chilled it, this dough is not going to stick because it's been sitting out. But what you can do is just, you know, dip it, or you can add extra ones on top to decorate, extra chocolates, extra whatever. And so what happens is it creates more interest. When you bake it, you get more interesting cookies.
They come out looking so beautiful. And then tell me about scooching? Is that what it's called?
Well, okay, yeah. So actually, before we get to that stage, is we want to make sure that our oven is really properly heated.
Okay.
Because most ovens are off by 15 degrees and up to 25 degrees from what they say they are.
Okay.
And often when you get that little bing, the indicator goes off, it's actually not ready.
Okay.
It'll have cold spots. So what we want to do is make sure that our ovens are actually what we think they are. So you just get a little oven thermometer, check it. And then once the beeper goes off and says, yeah, it's ready, it's not. It's lying to you. So give it another 15 minutes if you're baking cakes or cookies. And that way, your batches will come out a little more even.
It'll really even out?
Right. Otherwise, you'll get, you know what I mean, like brown spots, and maybe the cookies are cooked over here and not cooked over there.
Okay, 30 seconds scooching. Can we cover it really quickly?
Yes, we absolutely can. So when the cookies come out of the oven, they're warm and they're still soft. And you want to not cook them completely in the oven. So you want to cook them about 1 minute to perfection, let them cool on the tray.
Okay.
But before they start to cool, I want to go around my cookies, and I call this scooching. And I'm going to shape it. Now you can use a glass, whatever. You don't have to use the rings.
Okay.
And this gentle motion will create perfectly round cookies that, of course, are Instagram perfect.
Well, and you brought all these perfectly round cookies over here so we can see the fruits of your labor. That's how it's done. We covered so much.
We did. We did.
Oh my gosh, all of my cookie disaster mysteries have been solved. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for having me.
We'll have more on our website at katu.com, and we'll be right back with more Afternoon Live right after this.